Back at it with another edition of the Waterboys podcast. My name is Julian McKenzie. Sitting alongside me on the Zoom call, happy as can be, Frank Pavan. The smile has come to his face. Frank,
yes,
let everyone know you're alive and you're happy and you're elated and you're overjoyed at the Montreal Canadiens making it to the Stanley Cup semifinals.
I am all of the things that you explained. I'm overjoyed. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic, elated. I don't like, though, calling it the Stanley Cup semifinals. In my mind, it is the Eastern Conference Finals. That's what it is.
Yes,
So,
I agree. I agree.
I get it's not the
you.
Eastern. I'll just call it. I'm saying the Conference Finals. I'm not calling it the semifinals. I'm calling it the Conference Finals.
But here's the thing, because of how the final four teams will essentially be seeded, I guess, technically you can't really say conference because the Montreal Canadiens are going to play the winner of the Colorado Avalanche or the Vegas Golden Knights, who are in the Western Conference. So it doesn't really work to say conference finals. So I guess that's why semifinals works. But as people who have grown up with conference finals, it's still very weird. So I completely understand if you say conference, but I guess I've ingrained it enough in my brain to say semifinals, I guess, which is still weird.
It's too weird for me. But what a trip it's been. What a ride. And I just put out a tweet actually. It's such a tragedy to not have Pierre Hood commentating this wild ride for the Montreal Canadiens. A true it's one of the few bitter moments of this entire playoff ride so far for the Habs is not having Pierre Hood, the legendary Pierre Hood, commentating for RDS. But anyways, I think you share those same sentiments. I saw you nodding your head. So obviously Pierre, one of the greats of all time here in Montreal, calling games for the Habs. By the way, you've been at the past two games, so let's talk about that.
Yes, I have. Fun, actually. Those two playoff games, the first ever NHL playoff games I've ever been in attendance for. So that's big for me. Game 4 ending in overtime in favor of the Montreal Canadiens. First ever NHL playoff OT I've ever sat in on. So that was also really cool as well. So all the fans are going in on the game and the success. For me to be a little selfish, I get to cover the playoffs the first time in my life. This is awesome.
And you were alongside your two coworkers, correct? Or you have a bunch of coworkers, but you're Montreal-based coworkers.
So the weird thing about the way the seating is arranged in the press box for at the Bell Center, in a non-pandemic world, I probably would be sitting right next to my coworkers.
Yeah.
However, I guess because I wasn't credentialed for the whole year and they're trying to just make space for people, I was pretty far away from Arpin Basu and Marc-Antoine Godin. I was sitting next to, for game 3, actually, I was sitting next to François Gagnon of RDS.
Okay. Cool.
And I learned that no one in the press box enjoys a game more than François Gagnon. You're hearing all the different songs and Fais du bruit, whatever for the crowd, and Francois is just having the time of his life. Not cheering for the Canadiens or anything, but he's having himself a ball. He's enjoying the moment, and it's hard to not get caught up when you see Francois singing along to some of the songs. You're like, oh, look at that! Francois Gagnon is like a broadcasting sports legend.
Yes, he is definitely a legend. I was just gonna say he's definitely among those legendary hockey cover reporters in Montreal for sure.
Yeah.
But let's get right into the game. Montreal obviously has advanced to the Stanley Cup semifinals by sweeping the Winnipeg Jets 4-0. And it really was like two teams playing two different sports almost. I feel like Montreal is clicking on all cylinders. It's crazy to think that because of how high powered Winnipeg's offense is. But I think, whenever, I've been hearing this a lot, right? You hear a bunch of reporters asking the players oh, how come you weren't able to generate this? You did this in the regular season. What's happening now? Why can't you get there? And they'll come up with some, reason. Oh, we're just not clicking well as a team right now. Or when even media pundits say oh, they're just not executing everything perfectly. It's because Montreal is literally playing completely perfect shutdown trap style game against their opponents for the past 7 games. They've been on a 7-game win streak, by the way.
Longest one of the season and the longest one in the playoffs. They've had, I want to say, at least when it was 6, I think, since like 2014 or 2015. Like it's been a while since they've won this many consecutive games in the playoffs,
And
or
so
at all.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to refer back to Arpon Basu's latest article in the Athletic, and he basically came out and kind of referenced an article he wrote 2 years ago when he traveled out to BC for Josh George's charity softball game, and Carey Price and Shea Weber were both there, obviously being BC guys, and they were talking about how it's really win now for these guys, and Marc Bergevin too has built this team through them. Those are the 2 pillars that he's built this team through, particularly since acquiring Shea Weber. And I can't compliment Carey Price, Shea Weber, of course, but the big 4 on defense enough. Shea Weber, Ben Sherratt, Joel Edmondson. Jeff Petrie went down. He should be fine to head to the next series. But I feel like it's really just, it's like a it's a well-oiled machine at this point. Everyone knows their job. The players have said that multiple times already, but it's like the foundation right now is so strong, I feel like.
Are you willing to call it a big 5? Because the Montreal Canadiens haven't lost a game since they put Erik Gustafsson in the lineup.
I like his energy. I do like his energy. I think he's actually, it seems like, look, this is just from watching on TV, but this guy's, relatively new to the team, acquired at the deadline. I don't know if he has any previous history with the players on the team, but the guy seems like a complete Energizer bunny. Like he's always celebrating. This guy's new to the team. And I know you were just trying to make a quick point about him being the big 5, being that he was in the lineup and they haven't lost, but you see him when they win that overtime game. He's the first guy over to Price celebrating, and this is a guy who's been on the team for what, 2 months?
First guy to Price. And also when he at one point he like goes to Cole Caulfield and he's just giving him some like dap. Like he's going to him like, yo man, he's giving him the dap, the hugging. Like I definitely see what you mean with the energy. What's funny is that one kind of complaint with him in the regular season, at least, is that I think some people were just kind of unsure about his decision making, and a lot of people were nitpicking at some of the mistakes that he made. But in Game 4, on the power play, there was a power play in that first period where they were moving that puck around. I don't think the Canadiens have ever moved that puck so well on a power play in a long time. And Gustafsson is like right on that power play, trying to circulate it. And like, even as the puck like leaves the zone and the power play's over, everyone in the arena is cheering because they're so happy the power play looked good. Erik Gustafsson was a big reason why that power play looked as good as it did. That's the best game he's played as a half. And he gets a goal on another instance as well, which was just a great shot from the point. He looked good.
Last comment on Erik Gustafsson here from me. This team, I think it's been said out there on Twitter and in articles already that there's shades of the 2010 team here, the underdogs, the clawing their way to a conference final. I'll call it that this time, semifinals, conference finals. You know what I'm talking about, and playing a very systematic, like a system, a very very well structured, very good on the penalty kill too. 2010 team was unreal on the penalty kill. And then I think of Erik Gustafsson, and you think of Marc-André Bergeron.
Wow.
Who was just like a power play guru. I think Gustafsson to a lesser extent. He's obviously playing other minutes. I remember in Game 7 against Washington back in 2010, Bergeron was literally solely for the power play. And I'm not saying that, they're the same. It's the same thing here, but there's something about Gustafsson running the power play that it's looked better. I feel like the other players on the power play have stepped up too. Cole Caulfield's looking like a guy who's playing with extreme confidence for a 20-year-old on the power play. Nick Suzuki's, Corey Perry. We can go in on Corey Perry, man. Jeez.
Man, the worm.
Yes.
I don't know why anyone would want to be called the worm, but that's what they call him.
Yeah. But overall, just a great team effort. It's going to be exciting to see who they play. Obviously, there's you know what? Before we get to the next series, I just want to say a few things to wrap up the Winnipeg Montreal one because it was so quick.
We don't have to wrap it up as soon as you want.
We don't. But
we can talk about.
It was shorter. I just want to see a hit on a few storylines here. Obviously, the big ones, Mark Scheifele. right? We haven't commented on Mark Scheifele since last week's episode. I felt like, and there was something that I picked up on through your Instagram story, Julian.
Okay.
A little small detail, and I think you know this, but as you know, the Winnipeg's coaching staff did not shake hands with the players.
Really? I didn't notice that. I did
in
not.
Your Instagram. Sorry.
Actually, no. Actually, time out. They did. I remember looking up before I took that video. So like where you're sitting in the press box, there's like monitors, so you can see like anything you want on those monitors. And Sportsnet was on, and I saw like Dominic Ducharme and the coaching staff like going up to the coaches to shake hands. So
the players.
No. I mean, the players, they have the line in my video, but in what I was seeing that was not taken on video, I saw Sportsnet take a shot of Dominic Ducharme coming off the bench and like
to shake hands with Paul Maurice and the Winnipeg staff, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
At least, yeah.
But they did not shake hands in the line with the players. They walked through the line to the exit and then left. That's sorry if I didn't explain that properly. I apologize. But they did not they did not go through the entire handshake line. Is what I'm saying.
I didn't realize that.
Go play back your story. You see them walking through the line and to the exit. But
okay. I guess I'm gonna have to do that because it's funny, that video I posted on my Instagram story is only like 15 seconds long, but like that's just like one part of an entire video. So now I'm gonna have to go back on my actual video, which is like a minute long, and see if there's more stuff. So I'll add that caveat there. I don't want to make it seem as if, you know, we're accusing the Jets coaching staff of anything. But speaking of the Jets and the coaching staff, I mean, I get Mark Scheifele means a lot to this team, and that's
as does Dylan DeMello, by the way.
As does Dylan DeMello and Paul Stastny, who also missed a few games in the series and tried to come back, but I don't think he looked healthy at all. This team just could not handle the insane forecheck that the Canadiens were putting on them. I don't think I've seen the Canadian stick work look as good as it did in this series. I can point to a few goals that essentially began because someone in the neutral zone or someone somewhere used their stick to poke the puck away and basically turn the puck over and turn it into an offensive chance going the other way. The Winnipeg Jets had no answer for that. And when the Canadiens, especially from that fourth line, as we're now adding the quotation marks around them of Yoel Armia and Eric Stahl and Corey Perry, those guys hem the Jets in their own zone, and they struggled to get out at times. Here's the one thing about this team that I find more impressive than 2010, because of what we've seen from that fourth line, because of what we've seen from that penalty kill, because of what we've seen of the young players like Nick Suzuki and Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Cole Caulfield. I didn't even mention Carey Price. And it's not to say Carey Price didn't do his damn thing. Carey Price definitely showed up when it mattered. But in 2010, even if the Canadiens tried to play as defensive as they could, there were a lot of games where they had to rely on Yaroslav Halak to bail them out and get them a win. I don't think Carey Price has had to do that as much throughout the playoffs. He had the 1-0 game against the Winnipeg Jets, but even that game, like it's not as if the Winnipeg Jets were peppering him with like 40, 50 shots. Like Carey Price just had a pedestrian game, like 30 saves.
5 goals in game 1.
That game.
5 goals, 4 in game 1. Obviously 1-0 in game 2. Then the game 3 was 5-1, and then this one was 3-1. So I think they're averaging above 2 goals a game. Obviously,
they scored goals. They put up points for Carey Price. I don't want to say this was. I mean, it was fun for Carey Price, and you can let Carey Price tell you for himself. I know that firsthand.
Yes.
But like, as opposed to so many other series where Carey Price has played with the Montreal Canadiens, I don't feel Carey Price had to work as hard to keep his team in it. I think his team did a heck of a job to beat the Winnipeg Jets. And let's not get it twisted here. I get it that the Winnipeg Jets, they were missing a few players, but the Jets got beat. And there were times they just did not show up.
They did not show up.
Game 4, down 2-0. Had it not been for those wild shots from Logan Stanley, they get shut out. Logan Stanley was the only reason why the Jets had a chance in game 4. They had 16 shots in regulation.
They're 6'7", stay-at-home defensive prospect, essentially, who it was his first year in the NHL, Logan
He had like
Stanley.
one goal in the regular season. He doubled his output in the game.
Provided 2 goals for the Winnipeg Jets in Game 4. One thing I also want to make note of is that during the series, the Canadiens' penalty kill outscored the Jets' power play 3-0. That is unacceptable, obviously, at the NHLO. And if you want to win a playoff series, you can't be outscored by a penalty kill. It was really, I don't even know how to chalk it up as the Jets. Like, they had a lot of time off after sweeping Edmonton, so they weren't tired. Yes, they lost Mark Scheifele, but they did not show life. They did not show any form of life through 4 games. Maybe game 1, you could argue, it was their best game. But aside from that, they really didn't show much life. And also, in game 4, an elimination game, they had 16 shots?
16 shots in regulation.
Not good enough, man.
And I don't know if they got any shots in overtime, actually.
I don't think they got out of their zone in overtime, Julian. I don't think
they won the faceoff and that was it. I don't remember. Like, they didn't do anything in OT.
So, it's a tough way to go out for Winnipeg, especially after coming off a sweep in round 1. Your expectations are quite high, I'd assume, and people are expecting you to win round 2. Once again, Montreal being the underdog, not shocking. We even said this on last week's episode. Montreal's just going to be an underdog the rest of the way through. And to your point about Montreal being extremely aggressive on the forecheck, I just want to make it clear throughout this entire actually, I take that back. Not through the entire playoffs. From game 5 and onward of the Toronto series. So for 7 games, they have played a suffocating style of hockey for their opponent. Not only are they super aggressive on the forecheck, they provide such high levels of pressure in the offensive zone, in the neutral zone, and the defensive zone. In game 4 of the Winnipeg series, they could barely cross Montreal's blue line. The defensive sticks, the back checkers, and Phil Deneau, Arturi Lehkonen, Corey Perry, even Cole Caulfield's back checking at an elite level. Like, Montreal is just playing. I think this is their style of hockey. I don't want to say they're playing above what everyone should expect from them. I think this is truly what their style of hockey is, and I think it goes back to the beginning of the season, Julian, when Kevin Weeks had a quote saying, "Toronto Maple Leafs are built to win in the regular season. Montreal Canadiens are built to win in the playoffs," and we're seeing that in full effect this year. Marc Bergevin's offseason acquisitions are paying extreme dividends now. You think of Tyler Toffoli with the game winner. You think of Joel Edmondson, who's been an absolute rock on the back end. You think of Corey Perry, who was signed in basically before the season started at a league minimum. You think of Eric Stahl, who many people criticized being a trade deadline acquisition, who's playing an awesome role on the 4th line. Everything is working for Montreal. Everything. And it's definitely fair to say that their next round will be their toughest test yet. And I think if we see them exceeding or sustaining this level of pressure and sustaining this level of play in the next round, that's going to hush some critics a lot, for sure.
I'm just really intrigued at how that style of play is going to look against a Colorado and a Vegas.
Yes.
And I think it could work. Like, I mean,
if you get the first goal.
I think so, yeah. The Canadiens have been able to get that first strike in those games against the Leafs and in games against the Jets. If Phil Deneau, who, by the way, in game 4, I think led his team in shots.
Yes.
This is the guy we don't necessarily look at for his offensive attributes, but this guy was in front of the net. He was getting shots on net. His forechecking obviously was really good. Like, he was very good. Very, very good. He's been good all playoffs. He doesn't necessarily need to light the lamp to be good, but this is a guy who shut down Auston Matthews and now goes through a second-round series where he essentially shuts down the Jets and keeps them from doing anything significant.
Might I also add on Phil Deneau is that if the Montreal Canadiens are to play the Colorado Avalanche in the next round, Nathan McKinnon has already gone on record to say the toughest center to play against is Phil Deneau.
Called him an underrated player.
Yeah.
Completely. You know what's funny? Like, I've started to think about how cool it would be to see Montreal go up against either Vegas or Colorado for all these different storylines. There's the Colorado Montreal, like, Colorado going back to the Quebec Nordiques days when they were in Quebec and not in Colorado, obviously. There's the Nathan McKinnon, Philip Deneau storyline. And if those two teams end up playing against each other, well, we know who Philip Deneau is likely going to end up going up against.
And then
Those are the
Vegas,
two biggest ones.
In
Vegas,
you've
Max
got
Pacioretty.
Nick Suzuki storyline, right? With Max Pacioretty. Obviously, Thomas Tatar is still here, but he's being a healthy scratch. That's the storyline. And then there's also Marc-Andre Fleury, right? Quebec-born boy playing his probably hometown team. I don't know if he's from Montreal, but the team he rooted for as a kid. And man, can you imagine that? The Flower versus Carey Price in the conference.
You're talking about two of the best goaltenders of the last like 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Going up against each other. Also, shout out to Tristan Damo, who also said if the Canadiens and Golden Knights end up in a series against each other, Montreal needs to find a way to get Celine Dion to do the anthem from Montreal and not just from Vegas, because that'd be cool. Did you see, by the way, there's a trailer going around for a biopic that is based on Celine Dion's life. It uses Celine Dion's music, but the character in the biopic is named Aline Dieu. They don't use her name. They use everything else, but except her name.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
That's really weird.
By the way, another storyline, Marchessault storyline too, coming back home.
Jonathan Marchessault. Yeah, oh yeah. They have that flavor, I guess, of French Canadian guys.
So like switching over here, Julian. Like, okay, Montreal and the Jets series is done. Who do you like with the Avs versus the Knights? It's been so back and forth. It's a tough one because the first two games you think Colorado's flying, they're unstoppable. You think of Rantanen, you think of
Would
McKinnon.
You say first two games? Because I think you could make the argument that, and I was reading off of my colleague Dom Luschissen's article about the Golden Knights and the Avs. You could really say the Colorado Avalanche have looked good in one game, and the Golden Knights have just looked every other game. Philip Grubauer looked, who had just been named a nominee for the Vezina Trophy. He did everything he could to hold up the Avalanche in game 2. And then in game 3, he tried to do the same thing. And 2 goals in a matter of less than a minute allow the Golden Knights to take the lead and eventually the win. And then the Golden Knights end up tying the series. You can make the argument that the Golden Knights have looked good in 3 out of those 4 games. And off of what I've been able to see as well, or been able to read, the Golden Knights seem to be putting a lot of pressure on the Colorado Avalanche, and they've kept the Colorado Avalanche's best players off the score sheet. And this is an Avs team but we didn't mention this yet, but they don't have Nazem Kadri due to suspension, and I believe his suspension has been upheld as well. So they're not going to have him at least for game 5. Like, the Colorado Avalanche really need him back in the lineup. They just need something to go their way. But if the Montreal Canadiens go up against the Golden Knights here, I wonder if they're going to be matched up. They might get not like a mirror image type of deal, but there's some similarities you could draw between both teams. The Canadiens have Phil Deneau, who's their best defensive forward. The Golden Knights have Mark Stone, who's arguably the league's best defensive forward. You could make a case he's the league's best defensive forward. You could say it's Patrice Bergeron, and you would not be wrong. You could make a case for Anze Kopitar. Mark Stone deserves to be up there, if not the guy, as the best defensive forward in the National Hockey League. So the Golden Knights know a damn thing or two about shutting down the other team's best players, especially with a guy like Mark Stone, who could not only take pucks away from other teams, but he could score as well. So the Golden Knights, I think, definitely could, if the Canadiens are going to get to a point where they're going to play a suffocating trap game and try to be super defensive, the Golden Knights can do that too. So is it weird to say maybe Colorado might be a better matchup because they're not necessarily as vaunted defensively, but also on the other side, they have the star power up front
and the speed.
But
Montreal hasn't played a team as fast as that.
They're fast. Like Nathan McKinnon on his own is just fast. Like that goal he scored in game 1 where he just took the puck in the neutral zone and zipped past the defense, who I get they were caught flat-footed, but a big man like Nathan McKinnon moving as fast as he did.
Like, and let's not even forget about the defense. I mean, Samuel Girard and Cale Makar. Like the Habs have not played a defensive core like that all season.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it's tough. I don't know which team is quote unquote like a better matchup for the Montreal Canadiens.
I couldn't even imagine.
There's more star power on Colorado's side, but Vegas has gone deep in the playoffs before, and they might have, I don't want to say they have more of a balanced attack, but like the guys that they have, they've bought into their system and they know how to play defensively as well. At least they've shown that against the Colorado Avalanche, and they can get goals in as well. Like you're talking about two potential juggernaut teams. And this is something I also mentioned on Sportsnet over the weekend. I think people will realize with the way that Vegas and Colorado are constructed, those are kind of two teams. If you're a general manager in the National Hockey League, those are two teams you should definitely look to strive to have your
model
team
your
look
team
like,
after.
as far as I'm concerned. Tampa Bay also fits this mold as well. I know they're in salary cap. Well, they will be in salary cap issues when it comes time, but that's also a team you look at. Those three teams, I think, if you're a general manager in the league, if I was a general manager, I'm like, okay, I want my team to look like either Colorado, Vegas, or Tampa.
Something I'm interested to see as the playoffs progress and the Vegas and Avalanche series progresses is the Colorado Avalanche are still a relatively young and inexperienced playoff team. Sure, they have Brandon Saad, who's won a cup, and I think maybe another player or two, but relatively inexperienced when it comes to bigger, deeper runs. Like, Nathan MacKinnon's always going to be great. We know that. Mikko Rantanen is always going to be great. But Cale Makar, Samuel Girard, or was Girard on Nashville's run? Or was he traded by that time?
I don't know. I don't think he was on Nashville's run. That was like
so
5 years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. But just to say, like a lot of Colorado's core superstars on their team, they haven't had the experience like some of the Vegas Knights have when going to a cup final.
But also, while I don't know the exact number and who, Colorado Avalanche have quite a few unrestricted free agents coming into the offseason. So I think there's some urgency on, making sure that they could get all those guys as much success as possible before they get to the offseason. Also, don't forget, Nathan MacKinnon, as of right now, on a bargain with the best contract in the league.
Yes.
What's that going to look like when it comes time for him to be an unrestricted free agent?
Scary.
And he might ask for the moon, even if, I
don't
know if he wants less or anything like that, but like he might ask for some serious money here.
Yeah.
So I think the urgency for the Colorado Avalanche to get that playoff experience and go past the second round here.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about the Leafs where they just keep losing in the first round. They can't get out. Like, the Avs came off a second round series loss.
Yes.
To the Dallas Stars, who just were upstart and they came out of nowhere to beat them with a hot goaltender. I think the Avs are close. They're close. They just need that series win over Vegas.
I'm with you on that. By the time this is out, it could very well be that Tampa Bay has moved on. Could very well be. But one series that I want to talk to you about is Boston and the New York Islanders. Okay, a very back
that looks
and forth.
Really fun.
Yes, extremely fun. I've been watching as much as I can when I have some free time, and such a back and forth series. Okay, and we know Boston for being such a strong defensive team over the years, right? You think of guys who have won cups with them. You think of Zdeno Chara. You think of, oh my God, what the heck?
Patrice Bergeron.
Well, no, I'm thinking of the defensive side.
Well, do they have Charlie McAvoy now?
Charlie McAvoy, who's grown with Zdeno Chara, but when they were on that cup run, they had he was German. I can't remember his name.
Dennis Seidenberg,
who helped shut down the fort in Boston. I mean, you can't say he played a pivotal role in those runs that they had, and they've always just found guys who really step up. I feel like Boston, and one of those guys who profited from learning from Zdeno Chara and whatnot, he's out with injury. Mr. I'm just forgetting names right now, Julian. I am just forgetting names. Brandon Carlo. Excuse me. Brandon Carlo is out.
Yes.
Brandon Carlo is out with injury. I know we talk about Charlie McAvoy, but Brandon Carlo has been just as important to Boston, being that big bruising type of defenseman, and he was out with a concussion. And to be honest, Boston's defense is looking a bit shallow at the moment, especially their bottom end of the pairings. I mean, they have Jared Tenorti, Julian, starting for them in the playoffs.
Jared Tenorti resurfaced after like a decade bouncing around from the NHL and the AHL. He was with the Milwaukee Admirals for quite some time, and then he ends up back in the National Hockey League. Good for him.
And it's just to say, the New York Islanders are an incredibly fast team. We were talking about speed in Colorado. Matt Barzal, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri. I mean, this guy is drinking from the fountain of youth, I feel like, because he's just always been big in playoff games.
You know what's funny? Kyle Palmieri, speaking of guys who were acquired in the regular season and were criticized for their play, I think he had like 2 goals in the regular season, and in the playoffs now he has like 6. Like I think a lot of people were kind of worried about the acquisition at first because he's a good player and he should have been able to contribute to a team like the Islanders in the regular season, but he wasn't bringing it up. But he's looked pretty good in the playoffs so far, and he's looked good since that series against the Penguins.
Exactly. And for the Islanders to head back home to the Coliseum to try and win this series, that's a big one for them, getting that win at the Garden. 5-2, very demanding win from the Islanders. Very impressive. So
there's a stat I was looking for. Most playoff goals by in-season acquisition since 2010. He has 6 in the playoffs. So it's about as much as Mark Stone did 2019, Paul Stastny 2018, Carl Hagelin 2016. The guy with the most, a lot of goals, 14 goals in the playoffs.
Wait, let me try.
In 2014. Okay, try. 2014.
Okay, just give me a bit more info. 2014, he had 14 goals in the playoffs. 14
goals in the playoffs. That's the most playoff goals by an in-season acquisition since 2010. I'll tell you what, I forgot about, this guy in his heyday, really good. He was a really good player. 2014. I don't know if it says it. You know what? I'll tell you the team.
2015?
No, 2014.
That's the year the Kings won, right?
That's the year the Kings won, yes.
Oh man.
He's a 3-time 40 goal scorer.
Jeez.
That year he scored 14 in the playoffs. He scored 5 with the Kings in the regular season and scored 6 with Columbus before he was traded.
Wasn't Gaborik?
He had more. It is Marian Gaborik.
Wow.
Marian Gaborik had 14 goals in the 2014
that's bringing me
playoffs.
back. 2014. I remember he was just on fire with that team. And I believe they won the cup in 5 games, right? Or was it 6?
That year was again.
I feel like they took care of the Rangers. Yes, it was. They took because the Montreal was in the conference finals. That was when Carey Price got hurt and Dustin Tokarski. They tried to ride on Dustin Tokarski and they
full circle.
Yes, exactly. But anyways, to bring it back to this year's playoffs, to end off maybe on the hockey talk, it's gonna be very interesting to see potentially the New York Islanders go off to face against, once again, potentially the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 extremely fast-paced teams, and we're talking about. On the flip side, Colorado and Vegas, they can play fast, but let's just say Vegas gets through, right? And we're saying they can play a slower, more physical, trappier game. We can very much see Montreal and Vegas being that slower series, and Tampa Bay and New York Islanders being that back and forth, high-scoring series. It could be interesting.
I don't know if Tampa Bay and New York Islanders could get to high scoring because we're talking about an Islanders team that has Barry Trotz, who's
Julian, there were 8 goals scored in a period. And I think Tampa Bay scored, 5 of them? Or 4 of them? Like
who's in net for the Islanders?
Is it Ilya Sorokin or is it Varlamov?
I think goaltending plays a role in that too, because otherwise that's very uncharacteristic for an Islanders team with Barry Trotz coaching them.
No, that's fair.
I don't necessarily think that's not something that like no disrespect to the Islanders. They're a very good team. Yes. They're a very well-coached team. I don't necessarily think of a high-scoring juggernaut team. I think of a defensively responsible, balanced attack team. Remember, they're playing without Anders Lee, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, that happened. And I didn't watch that game necessarily, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. But I'm going to look at goaltending and wonder, hey, how many of those chances could have been stopped by goaltending, because otherwise that's not something that normally happens under the watch of a Barry Trotz-led team. True. So I'd be stunned and I know Tampa Bay could run it, and Tampa Bay knows how to beat the New York Islanders as well. They did in the playoffs last year, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But anyways, the Stanley Cup playoffs are proving to be very exciting, especially for us because we're right in the middle of it, and especially for you because you get to attend games, so that's awesome. And do you know if you'll be attending any others in the semifinals?
I'm taking it one day at a time, man.
Oh, you gave me the classic response. taking one day.
Here's the thing. Game 3, I didn't know. To peel back the curtain here, I didn't know I was gonna be able to go to Game 3 until like maybe 2 hours before puck drop.
Wow.
So like once I got the okay, I was like, all right, I'm coming.
Pack
So,
your bags,
like,
kid. Let's go.
That's really it. Like, and getting in is like, it's almost kind of bordering on like going through security clearance at the airport. Because like you gotta go in, you gotta make sure you're wearing a medical mask, you gotta wear these safety goggles, you gotta put your stuff in through what's the name of that machine where you put like your electronics in and your belts and stuff.
You got me, dude. But I know what you're
not conveyor belt, but like, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that stuff. And it's like a dumb, like, oh, you got to like scan your face. You get your temperature checked too.
Okay.
Man, like it's quite a bit.
And then obviously you have to wear your mask the entire time, right?
You got to wear your mask the entire time. I guess except when you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you pretty much have to wear your mask the entire time. You got to wear your glasses most of the time. And they try to distance everybody in the press gallery. So pretty interesting times. But yeah, if I play my cards right, I should be back at the Bell Center for Game 3 of Vegas or Colorado against Montreal. That would be really cool. That'd be really awesome to be in the building for.
That'd be awesome, man. Well, I hope you do see that day. Game 3 comes and you're in the Bell Center. Moving on, though, I think we've covered the Stanley Cup playoffs enough for this week's episode. NBA, though, Julian, have you?
Association.
I mean, we're like, there's so many things happening at once here. The NHL playoffs are super exciting. Obviously, you have just a few responsibilities when it comes to hockey in the playoffs. But what have you gathered from the NBA playoffs so far?
Like, some of the series have been really interesting. I don't know if you followed like the Hawks Knicks series at all.
Yes.
New York Knicks fans were so amped about being back in the playoffs, and it was Trae Young, the young man out of the Atlanta Hawks, who just said, all right, I'm using Broadway as my stage and I am going to light these guys up. Now he finds himself in a playoff series against the Philadelphia 76ers, who have a hurt Joel Embiid. So there's a chance Trae Young and the Hawks might be able to give a real good fight to the Sixers.
Is this Trae Young? How many times has Trae Young been in the playoffs? This is not his first time.
I think it is.
Oh man,
it's one of his first times.
Ice cold as a youngster in the playoffs.
Come on,
it bodes well for him.
I think that's his is this year's first year in the playoffs? Because he's in Atlanta. Like Atlanta is like,
yes,
they're not like a big like juggernaut. Yeah, this is his first year in the playoffs.
Wow, good for him.
Man,
good for them.
Good for it. Well, I mean, come on. Like, look, I know everyone is looking at Luka Doncic to be the guy out of that draft class. I know they were traded for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young can ball. Trae Young has ice in his veins. And I think the Hawks are essentially just playing with nothing to lose here. I don't think they were expected to go that far in the playoffs. So maybe that plays a role in why Trae Young has looked good. But another series I was looking at, speaking of Luka Doncic, the Mavericks losing in 7 games to the LA Clippers. It looked as if they were going to dismantle the Clippers.
They were up 2-0.
2-0 series lead.
Mm-hmm.
They were up 3-2, and the Clippers got it within themselves.
But it was a needed moment for the Clippers. We've said this before.
Yeah. You need a series like that to, kind of bring everyone together, build up some character and mental fortitude, and get yourself through. And this is a team that has Kawhi Leonard, who knows a thing or two about winning. But because of the fact the Mavericks are out of the playoffs, every team remaining in the NBA playoffs has either not won a championship in their history or hasn't won in 37 years.
Holy.
So,
I mean,
we're getting... Yeah,
the 76ers must have won, right?
I guess they're the team that hasn't
won
that
team.
In 7 years.
Yeah.
Because the Nets haven't won. The Bucks, or it might be the Bucks too, because it's been a while since the Bucks. I think the Bucks probably won like the 50s or 60s or something. Who else am I thinking of that I'm blanking? The Suns have never won.
The Hawks, right? You said
the Hawks have never won.
Crazy, man.
Clippers have never won. Why am I blanking on all the other teams? The Jazz have never won. They've been to the finals. They've never won.
Good call. Yeah.
And we got to keep an eye on the Utah Jazz because Dwight Walton. If the Jazz keep on winning, we got to talk to Dwight Walton about the Jazz.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in a situation where we could see a team that hasn't won in quite some time step up and do it. It's just that if the Brooklyn Nets win, people are going to groan because it was literally like a super team that just kind of came together and they ended up winning. And
I feel like
Kevin
that,
Durant,
like that's kind of par for the course for basketball right now, though.
I mean, I guess, but like at least when like LeBron James joined Miami, they made the finals. He
It
didn't
was
win right away. He goes to
right.
LA, he doesn't win right away. Boston, I think actually when Kevin Garnett joined Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, they might have won right away, or they're at least won within like a year of them all coming together. The road is pretty easy for, I mean, I don't want to say it's easy for Brooklyn, but with the way Kevin Durant looked
And
in that game against the Bucks, like they
and
might be able to do some damage.
when we're talking about like super teams, right, in the NBA, when the Golden State Warriors were winning all their championships, they were like homegrown guys,
Well, yeah, like
right? Like
Steph Curry
Thompson,
is a
Steph,
draft
and
pick, Klay Thompson,
Draymond.
Draymond.
Yeah.
I mean, Andre Iguodala had bounced from other teams. They
Mm-hmm.
got him as free agent. Like, yeah, like the big core guys were homegrown guys. It just so happened that they were able to get Kevin Durant to fit on their team, and they just turned into an unstoppable team. So, like, they don't necessarily fit in the category of super team like
Yeah.
a Miami was or Boston was
Or the Nets. No.
or the Nets now,
Yeah.
essentially.
That's good. So
But
hey,
yeah,
paint a picture for me here, Julian. Kevin Durant does not want to be compared to Giannis Antetokounmpo.
so ESPN the other day, one of their analysts, Jay Williams,
Okay.
went on air and told the story of an anecdote where he encountered Kevin Durant at a party. And days earlier, he had made this comparison between Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo, saying if both of them had a baby, this described the type of player that child would be. Obviously, those two players coming together is just kind of weird in that sense, but that's for another day. Apparently, at this party, Kevin Durant goes up to Jay Williams and is like, "Yo, don't you ever compare me to Giannis Antetokounmpo?" And he's like, "Oh, he's trying to explain his point." He's like, "No, don't you ever compare me to Giannis Antetokounmpo." This is what Jay Williams from ESPN, former number 2 overall pick in like 2003. His career was cut short after a motorcycle accident. This is what he said on ESPN. Kevin Durant then goes on Twitter and basically tries to refute what was said. And let's see if I could pull up the tweet.
Was
here
it an article? Was
he,
Jay Williams? Was it on video or was it an article?
it was on video. It was
Okay.
on video. It was during like I don't know which ESPN show it was. But the Kevin Durant tweet, I don't know if we bleep swear words here, but we'll just see. Mans will do anything to advance their careers in this media shit, wanting to be accepted by an industry that will dispose of you whenever they please. Keep me out of that corny ass talk about who's better and legacy and all that dumbass shit. I don't even talk like that. Like, and on Instagram, Sideline Sources posted the quote of Jay Williams where he was saying he was comparing Kevin Durant to Giannis. And in the comments, he's like, "This is an effing lie. Jay Williams can never speak for me ever." And just as I was alluding to before, Kevin Durant going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo in their series between those two teams, Kevin Durant, it almost kind of looked like he was taking it personally. From the little bit I was able to see from that game, Kevin Durant wasn't looking like someone who was just like, all right, I'm playing in a playoff game. The way he was going one-on-one with Giannis, he looked like he was going one-on-one with him at Rucker Park in New York. It was like, nah, bro, like I'm cooking you. And we're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo like an MVP. And I mean, Kevin Durant's been an MVP too, but like Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the more
Joe
revolutionary
Schmo here.
players in this game. No, but Kevin Durant also is no Joe Schmo. Kevin Durant, I mean, Giannis Antetokounmpo, for the player that he is, a big man who can run point. His shooting has still been suspect. His jump shooting has still been suspect for quite some time. But he is someone who's like a menace to be reckoned with. But he is not on the level of a Kevin Durant who could go down as not just one of the best scorers of this era, but one of the best scorers of all time, if not the best scorer. He could shoot from outside, he could shoot from inside, like he could run to the rim, he could shoot threes, like he could score. He's the best scorer I've ever seen. Steph Curry is the best shooter. Kevin Durant is the best scorer I think I've ever seen. So I think I think I can understand why a guy like Kevin Durant might be like, you know what? No, don't compare me to Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's a very good player, and you could make the argument he's a top 5 or top 10 guy. Kevin Durant, when he is on his game, he's no lower than top 3. Like, you could say maybe James Harden might be just as good of a scorer, but like Kevin Durant, like, it's one of the best players. So
what happens that
there's
they're
a
on the
part
same
of me
team.
that understands that
Yeah.
it just so happens they're on the same team. So there's a part of me that understands why Kevin Durant
Was so
takes
adamant.
exception.
Yeah.
But man, the fact that he was willing to just kind of go out there and put Jay Will on blast, like, that's not something you see in other leagues. Maybe
I was
in
just
the NFL.
thinking that. I'm like, that's so.
Yeah.
That's if a news story breaks about an athlete getting mad about a certain take in the news and having it blow up, my first thought would have it be a basketball player doing that. I feel like that's way more common in that league. Forget about it in the NHL. Really, it doesn't really happen that much. You'll just get we're on to the next one from an NHL player type of comment. But
I feel like Austin Matthews might do that. I feel like Austin Matthews, if there's
Patrick
one
Kane,
NHL
maybe.
player who I think maybe less Patrick Kane, I feel like he's been in the game long enough that like he doesn't probably let that stuff bother him. Austin Matthews is like, I feel like Austin Matthews probably like sees what's going on in other leagues, and I think kind of cares about his image enough to a certain point, and he's just like, I think if anyone would do it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was him.
Mm-hmm.
But also knowing how NHL works, you probably wouldn't see that too often. But I feel like if you really let Austin do what he wants, and you know what, maybe we shouldn't do that considering some of the off ice stuff he's done in the off season. Maybe you shouldn't let him do everything that he wants. But in a situation like that, I think he'd be the one NHL player who comes to mind who would even come close to doing something like that. But yeah, Kevin Durant, don't compare him to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis Antetokounmpo, amazing player. Kevin Durant, like one of the greatest of all time. Like,
so
bar none.
Let me ask you a question here, Julian. When we had Dwight on, he said his clear-cut favorites, especially when it comes down to playoff time, was the Lakers to win it all. They are eliminated. Who is your favorite now? Like, do the Phoenix Suns interest you? Are they legit?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right? I kind of feel like there's a vibe with them. Yeah.
They have CP3. They have Chris Paul, who's proving over the last few years from all the teams that he's bounced around from that he's like one of the best point guards we've seen. And not just because of the fact that he's so good on the floor, is a good floor general, can slash and do all these sorts of things. But the fact that he's made all these teams so much better with him just being there is a testament to how good of a player he is. He was in OKC playing with like Lou Dort, and they had half a chance of beating the Houston Rockets, a team he was on previously, and help them be as good and almost get to a point where they could, beat the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs. And now he's in Phoenix, a team that was in the bubble last year. I get it. They were undefeated, but they still didn't get into the actual playoffs.
Okay.
They were at a much different trajectory in their a much different point
than now.
Now, where they're a number 2 seed in the West.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention the Denver Nuggets as well. That's another team you're looking at as well, where they have the likely MVP in Nikola Jokic. I think that's another team that hasn't won an NBA Finals, but Nikola Jokic, the way he played in that Portland series, like, just big man on campus. I mean, dominating in the hole, but also just the best passing big man probably I've ever seen. We're telling you right now, in the NBA, we're seeing some of the best players this league has ever seen. But Nikola Jokic, just imagine some big, like, I mean, not oaf-looking dude, but like some big, like, stocky guy. And you're thinking, man, he's going to be a nightmare to deal with in the post. And all of a sudden, you just see him, like, kind of lock it up on you, and he has the ball, and he's just like behind the back. You're like, how the did he do that pass? Like, that's how good Nikola Jokic is. Like,
so I feel like I struck a little
teams for sure.
I feel like I struck a little chord there with the Suns. Do you think they can go all the way, or is it really like Brooklyn?
I want them to. I think like the Nuggets have a really good chance, obviously, but like I think that I want the Suns to go to the final this year. I want to see Chris Paul in the NBA Finals. I don't believe he's been to the NBA Finals. That's like the biggest thing he's missing to a career that is obviously trending towards the Hall of Fame. And to see him go up against the Brooklyn Nets, I think would be really interesting. I think the Sixers might have been the best chance at stopping them, but I don't think so anymore. Like, maybe that Brooklyn Nets team. Look, Blake Griffin, who was bouncing around from like after the Clippers, were like playing like Detroit. Did he play in another team after that? But like, he was a non-factor in Detroit, and now has turned himself into a serviceable fourth option for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
Like the Nets are good at this point. I've got them as a lock to make the Eastern Conference Finals and into the finals. And I think they'll play the Suns. I think the Suns are going to be that team. Maybe I'm sleeping on the Jazz too, but I like the Suns' chances.
Gotcha. All right, man. Very good.
Want
Anything
to
else?
go
Do you
talk
want
some
to?
football?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's freaking do it. I mean, huge news that broke over the weekend was obviously Julio Jones getting traded out of Atlanta. We said this
Damn.
after June 1st. It would have been we would have seen this happen after June 1st. It does happen. That shores up cap space for Atlanta, and now they can sign all their draft picks. They could sign Kyle Pitts, so that is good for them. Unfortunate to see a Hall of Famer like Julio go like that. Um, I did not expect the Titans to come in and swoop this. I
Me neither.
think their offense is nasty now with Julio Jones. I mean, I want to see Julio healthy for the entire season. I know in reality, it's a recency bias thing for people to bring up the injury because he hasn't really dealt with recurring injuries throughout his entire career. Sure, he's dealt with them, but not to the point where he's been removed. He's had a 9-game season, is what I'm trying to say. If you get a fully healthy Julio Jones, you get AJ Brown, who seems to be just lights out. You get Ryan Tannehill, who's probably one of the better stories at quarterback position in the league. And I mean, Derrick Henry. I mean, that is an offense. You can't stack the box because then you got Julio Jones and AJ Brown to deal with, and you can't double team them, the wide receivers, because then you got Derrick Henry to deal with. So it's a bad matchup for certain defenses. And you know what? Might I add to this is I was very high on the Indianapolis Colts heading into this season. I think it was their year,
Oh,
right?
no way.
Right now it all settles. It sets in now. Oh boy, they have a great team. They have Carson Wentz, who's probably looking for a bounce back year. They have one of the better defenses in the league. This could have been their year to just go under the radar and win the AFC South. But now,
I don't know about that. I think the Titans were going to win
oh
the AFC
man,
South regardless because of the team that they had. Now that
no.
they have Julio Jones, I'm all in on them possibly just going to the AFC Championship game at this point. I think they might have one of the best teams in football. That's a
Whoa.
pretty scalding
Oh
like
my God.
hot take, but like I think the
Dude,
Titans
let me just
Titans
bring
are
this.
all in.
Look, offense can win you games. And when you get Julio Jones and Derrick Henry and AJ Brown going, they can win you games. But the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, had Corey Davis as their number 2 wide receiver, have had a career year last year, right?
In the Jets, with the Jets now.
Yes, he is with the Jets now. They lost to the Cincinnati Bengals last year because their defense is that bad, Julian. And I'm sorry, when you
Yes.
get to later on in the season, when you need those wins and those playoff games and getting to the AFC Championship game, you're going to need your defense to show up. And I don't think their defense is there yet. I know they got Caleb Farley, so they invested highly on the defense in round 1, but I don't think their defense is there yet. And they're going to be great to watch. I just don't know if I'm as high as that on them as you are, clearly.
Is the defense so bad that they can't win the AFC South, though?
It's going to be a neck and neck. Look, Houston's horrible and dealing with a lot of stuff.
Houston and Jacksonville, I don't expect those
Jacksonville's not going to be there yet at all. No,
No.
even though, I've said they have good pieces, they're just nowhere near there yet. So it's Indianapolis and Tennessee. I think it's going to be a grudge match. I really don't think it's one team's going to run away with it.
I'm willing to put that up because I'll put some respect on Frank Reich's name. I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah, for sure. I thought you were going to
he's
put
a
some
really good
respect on
coach.
my name there for a second. I'm like, oh, what did I do?
I mean, look, come on. Like, you
I'm
got to
just
put
pulling your
respect
leg.
on Frank's name every week. But like Frank Reich, I think deserves some props as head coach.
For sure. So anyways, that's going to be a division.
I'll calm down about the Titans, but I'm really into their offense and what they've got building.
Yes.
The weapons they have
Look, we didn't expect Julio to go there. We were talking about San Fran. We were talking about Baltimore would be a great place because they don't.
Seattle.
That would be gross. That would be really gross. But
ridiculous.
Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Julio Jones and Russell. I mean, come on. But good for the Titans.
Still running for his life.
Yeah.
With no O-line.
Yes, definitely. I'm happy for the Titans. I'm going to be keeping a close attention, pay a close attention to them next season. And yeah, I think, look, obviously there's other news around the NFL, but it's OTA season. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't show up. That's a story. Remember?
Are you like where are you with the Aaron Rodgers thing? Are you on the side that says like he's done in Green Bay, he's not coming back, or are you on the side that says like this is gonna blow over and he'll be back with Green Bay before you know it? I'm not like, I want to be on the side that says like he's done, but like,
I feel like there's just real,
I don't know.
part of me just wants to say, like, the guy's under contract for I think the next 3 years. It's really, when you talk about companies having good employee relations and how they can rebuild certain these wounds seem really deep though. For
Yeah.
a guy like Aaron Rodgers to be throwing shade and just openly discussing the situation and saying that he's displeased and not showing up to OTAs, which he's never not done in his entire career with them. It seems like there's some pretty deep wounds there. So look, I don't want to speculate. I don't know half of it, but it's just from an outsider's perspective, I think it's very fair to say that it's not looking great for
Nope.
Green Bay to retain their Hall of Fame quarterback.
We're going to be keeping an eye on that one, I suppose. But yeah,
sure.
The NFL, pretty busy with the Julio Jones trade. That was a fiery one.
Yes.
But yeah, we went through the NHL, we went through the NBA, we went through the NFL. Unless you wanted to bring up the Tom Brady rookie card thing. What is this?
That was quick. I wanted to, thank you for reminding me. Actually, a Tom Brady rookie card sold for $3.107 million. So $3.1 million essentially.
Did you buy it?
Did I buy it?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Do you think if we ever wanted to buy some lavish or expensive sports memorabilia, do you think Ashcan Carbafusion would front us like a couple $100,000? Not play.
It always falls back on Ash. Poor guy.
You think like with his net worth, it might be enough to buy like a really expensive like sports card?
I feel like if I say no, it's like an insult, and if I say yes, it's like, well, why don't you do it already?
You know what? Don't answer that question. I'm just being messy. Hey, look, Ash is the man who, he's the big man with a Watch Mojo. I was just messing around, just being funny. Don't worry about it. If he gets mad about me checking for his pockets, you let him get mad at me, not you. Anyway, before we get ourselves in trouble, it's time for the heroes and the zeros for this week.
Yes.
You know what's funny, actually? Normally we come up with like one of each, but I noticed you wrote down some heroes and I wrote a zero. I don't know. How do we go about this?
We shook each other's hands and we just said, look, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So I took care of the heroes.
Like that.
You took care of the zeros. Want to start with? Yeah, let's start with the zero. It's better to get that one out of the way.
Okay. I'm very glad that we did not spend any time on this to this point anyway. This episode talking about the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight, which took place, was like an 8-round exhibition matchup between Floyd Mayweather. We all know who Floyd Mayweather is,
Mr. 50-0,
and Logan Paul, who, if you live on YouTube, you probably know who he is too. They fought. Okay, I don't care, but the people who willingly bought the pay-per-view to watch that fight, y'all are clowns. I'm sorry. If y'all expected that something interesting was going to come out of this fight, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
You know, when you learn from your past experiences. I was one of those clowns, Julian, who straight up hyped myself up for the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren fight. And then I was one of those clowns who wasted my absolute time. And the entire event was a live...
Time and money or just time?
No, just time. Thank God.
Okay. No. Because if it was time and money, then bro.
Yeah, for real. But like, just to say, like, I hyped myself up to watch that event partly because Jake, the Pauls play the villain, and I wanted to see the villain get taken down by an actual fighter. But that was the most rigged event I had ever seen in my life. It was just a promo event for the artists who were playing and everything. So I completely zoned out of this one for Mayweather and Logan Paul. Didn't even pay attention to it for a second. And I saw your comment there on our notes. And I'm like, yes, that's a great zero to bring up because it was an absolute waste of time. And you know what's sad about all this, Julian, is that these things are going to keep happening always. Logan and Jake are going to line up fights to... Jake already lined one up for Tyrone Woodley. So it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah, this is what's going to save boxing. YouTubers fighting against real grown boxers. Yes. Anyway, I'm glad we got that out the way. What about our heroes?
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so we have two heroes this week. I think deservedly so. First one, T.J. Olson, son of Greg Olson, former NFL tight end.
G
He
Reg.
exactly G Reg. He was so TJ, his son, was born with a congenital heart defect that
Oh my.
has required 4 surgeries up until this point, and including 3 of them being open heart procedures. And so he just underwent one this past Friday. So, oh, sorry, last Friday, and it was a successful heart transplant. And the status, at least from what I've seen online and from Greg Olson and family, is that he is recovering. TJ even had a message for everyone who was, openly supporting him online, and so it's good to see that something as
That's good.
serious as this is now hopefully in the recovery phase. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's hopefully his recovery continues to go well.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the first hero of the week was TJ Olson. Second one, Taya Curry was drafted in the OHL by the Sarnia Sting,
Oh
and
wow.
I just wanted to make note of this because I find it's a pivotal moment for women in hockey, women sports. I mean, she was open in her, and I believe her press conference after being drafted. She said, "Treat me like a normal player on the team," and that's exactly how she should be treated because she was drafted just like anyone else who's been drafted into the OHL and been a part of the Sarnia Sting. So she better be treated like anyone else who's walked through those halls.
First female player to be drafted in the OHL.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of who was selected in the QHL, but I've been told it's happened in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League well before this happened in the
Okay.
OHL. So it's not like the first person drafted in the CHL, which the Canadian Hockey League, the governing body for the OHL, the WHL, the QMJHL, but Ty Curry, the goaltender, making history by being the first female drafted in the OHL. That's really cool. That's a really cool story.
Absolutely. We need more of that. And
We do need more of that, especially now in these weird times. Before we go, we didn't talk about this at all, but at the end of the week, Euro 20, well, it's supposed to have happened last year, but it's starting at the end of the week. I can't think of an event that has sprung up on me more than the Euros. Do you have any early predictions on, or I know you're not big, you're not as like a massive like soccer aficionado, but do you have a very early Euro 2020 or 2021 prediction on how that'll
oh
go? Is there
boy,
a team you are going to latch on?
I'd love to. I'd love to see England have success. I feel like it's been many a year where England has been hyped up. Where they had remember when they had Joe Hart and Nets and that team back in what was it 2012 or something.
Yeah.
I would like to see the young English guns. You think of Marcus Rashford. You think of what Sterling,
Yeah.
I'm sure, is playing. You think of some others. Oh wait, oh man, I think there was another one. Who's another top
Phil
British?
Foden, who plays out at
Yeah, Foden.
City.
That's right, and Trent Alexander-Arnold
Trent,
too.
I don't think he's I don't think he's playing. I think he got hurt.
Oh
Trent
no,
Alexander-Arnold, I think. Yeah.
damn.
I don't think he's playing. I
So
thought he was going to be there,
to answer
but
your
he's
question, I'd like to see England have success. I'd like to see a team like Belgium too, who's just had elite top level talent. I mean, you just for years it seems like you think of Mertens, you think of oh man, you think of
Romelu
just
Lukaku, who
De
had an amazing
Bruyne. Like
season out of
I'm
at
just going
Inter.
through the entire lineup. They have so many good. I mean,
You know
thank you
who's
for
back on their
mentioning
coaching
Lukaku.
staff?
Who's
You know
this?
who's back on their coaching staff? Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry was on their coaching staff at the
Good
last
for
World
him.
Cup, and he's resurfaced to help coach the Belgians.
Good for him. Good for him. Yeah. So
But
England,
yeah,
Belgium. I'd like this. Obviously, I mean, being Italian, I'd like to see Italy have success. I think they have a good young core from what I've seen. But overall, those would be the teams I'm going to be looking at. You? How about you?
I'm rooting for France. I just
Well,
think with the
yeah.
team that they have with guys like Antoine Griezmann, Paul Pogba, like
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty easy for me to
Is Hugo
Kylian
Loris?
Mbappe.
Is Loris
He
still the
should
netminder?
still be there. I think
Okay.
he should still be there. I can't think of anyone else would be. I'm gonna root for France this year. That's
Gotcha.
gonna be my team for Euro 20. It's kind of weird to call it Euro 2020 when we're in
Mm-hmm.
2021, but I digress. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna try my absolute best to watch some Euro games in between all the hockey watching, in between all the basketball watching. One other thing. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but are you interested in the return of the USFL? No. Okay,
What?
so neither of us are going to be
What is
watching the
that?
USFL. You don't know the USFL? It was a league that
United
was
States Football League. What is
football
it?
league. Yeah, it was a Doug Flutie is like championing this league. He's
That's not
championing the return.
the one that The Rock invested in, or was that
No, that's no.
because he
That's the
merged, right? He
XFL.
wanted to. Oh, that's the XFL. Okay, so that's what I was
You want to
thinking of.
merge the
Yeah.
XFL and the CFL. The
Mhm.
USFL, I think Donald Trump once had a team, but like that was well
Oh,
before
man.
we ever thought of him as a president for anything. Anyway, forget I mentioned the USFL.
One
There's
more
a lot of
thing
sports
actually
talk.
for you, I'd like to just wrap up
Go ahead.
unsports related. What shows
Yes.
have you been watching?
Oh God. I just finished the Mighty Ducks Game Changers series based off the movies, which I thought was pretty interesting, pretty
Okay.
cool. Criminal Minds. I've gone back on Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
The Simpsons.
Hmm.
One show I want to watch, which I understand all the episodes have been out already, is a show called Invincible, which is a superhero show on Amazon Prime. That's a show I want to dedicate some time to, but because of the NHL playoffs, I haven't really been able to
Yeah.
delve all my time into watching TV shows as much as I would like. But
Understood.
that's some of the shows I'm either watching or I'm interested in watching.
Awesome.
I don't know if you
Awesome.
got any really interesting new ones you wanted to plug.
The Serpent on Netflix, very good. About
Okay.
basically, there's actually a Quebecer who's involved, and that's a true, like, based on a real
Oh,
story where this like gem dealer who kind of drugged hippies in the 70s who traveled to Nepal and Thailand and took advantage of them and took their possessions and kind
what
of
the hell are
sold
you
them.
watching?
Very crazy story.
What
Based on a
the
true
hell is
story, but
this?
very, very, very good show. Great acting. The Serpent, and I just started Ozark. You
Oh,
know,
okay. I've heard a
yeah,
lot of good things about
with
Ozark.
Jason Bateman. So
Yeah.
I've heard it's like the new Breaking Bad or similar because it involves this maybe similar ish storyline, but very heavy start is what I'd say. They did not beat around the bush. They just got right
Oh
into
my
it, and it
god.
was a really good first couple episodes at least. So that's what I'm
Okay.
watching. But that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. So
Once
we've
again, we
got
forgot to plug stuff at the beginning of the episode because that's it. That's it.
we might as well
Always.
do that now, I guess.
Let
Subscribe.
me do it. Let me do it. I got it. You had it this week.
All right.
You had it
All right.
last week. I got it this week. So
All right.
basically, if you're still listening, you are an absolute treasure. If you're still
Thank you.
listening, you've gone through NHL playoffs, you've gone through NBA playoffs, you've gone through NFL news, you've gone through the Euro, you've gone through our heroes and zeros, and you've gone through USFL, and you've gone through shows that we're watching. So if you've gone through
A lot of
all those
stuff.
8 topics, good on you. You can follow us on Twitter at the Waterboys WM. You can follow us on Instagram at the Waterboys_podcast. And of course, you just hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on every app. We're on YouTube as well. The Waterboys Podcast YouTube channel. You could type that up. And you can follow Julian at approaching 6K followers, by the way, big guy.
Hey, it's
Hey,
people are just following me on Twitter.
Look at you. Look at
I
you. What's your
guess I'm
Twitter
tweeting
handle?
really interesting things. JKA McKenzie, so that's MCKENZIE. That is my Twitter handle. So go follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. And mine is Frank_Pavan. Julian, I believe that's it for this week.
Man, good show. Like we've done so far. Episode 29, episode 30 will be our next one.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be pretty cool. Once we get to that, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in the world of hockey, basketball, maybe some Euro stuff, maybe some other cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to tune in and find out. For Frank, I'm Julian saying so long. Keep it locked here. Subscribe wherever you listen to our show, and keep it locked here for more great content. Peace.